everyone, this is Neil from Dorkaholics. Today I am with
Mel Mah.
We were just at the first screening of Mel Mah's film
Move in.
that premiered at the new...
It's the new Filmmakers Film Festival in LA.
And then today's lineup was themed around...
It was actually all focused on Canadian filmmakers. So they do monthly film festivals, and this was a Canadian focus.
So I'm guessing you're from Canada.
Guessed right. Yes, I was born and raised in Toronto, well, just outside of Toronto, but I've now lived in LA for 13 years.
And your film, Moving, when it opens up, there's this like electric dance music video type of energy to it. How did your experience in dance influence the cinematography of the film?
Oh, everything, you know. So yes, I was a professional dancer for many years. That's actually why I moved down from Toronto to Los Angeles in the first place. And I wanted that opening scene to just launch us into this world of dance. And also it's important for the character Mason, who's really struggling with a lot of trauma and some toxic behavior from her dance teacher at the studio, was to just show her in her element, to show this love that she has, you know, because so much of the rest of the film is about the stuff that she's going through and the conflict and the struggles. So to launch us into this world that she really loves, this passion of hers, this the one place where she feels safe, where she's performing on her own. That's how I wanted to start the film.
And as the writer and director for this film, how did you balance the how to dance in the film before it is in the hands of the actors and actresses? Like, you had a vision in your mind and then you knew what you wanted to see and how it was played out, but how did you balance that into what you wrote and what you ultimately directed?
Right. I actually worked with a choreographer, Amy Gardner. Her and I were on the same season of So You Think You Can Dance Canada, so we go way back. And I brought her on, and of course we collaborated on the choreography and, you know, what the movement would be. But also the dancers are so talented that, you know, they obviously add a lot just seeing what works on their bodies. So whenever you're choreographing or writing or creating any art, it's really a collaborative process. I have one vision in my mind, but then it's staying open to see what they have to bring to the table too. So I feel like what we see on the screen now is such a collaboration and, you know, such a lovely melding of ideas between the dancer, Amy, our choreographer, and myself.
And it just feels so fluid when we see them dancing. How many takes were needed to be filmed and were ultimately incorporated into the final product?
The first solo scene, maybe we did like 8 takes or so, because that was pretty much all done in one shot. But yeah, I mean, the thing about shooting indie stuff is that you don't really have the time or the budget to shoot like 100 times. And so there is a lot of prep work. And coming from the dance world as well, I'm an artist that believes like rehearsal is king, like rehearse, prep. So when you get onto set and when you're shooting, you've already really worked out some of the kinks. But even still, even with rehearsal, there's so many factors at play. There's lighting, there's the camera movements, there's of course the dancers, and you know what part of it feels like it's the best performance, and there's little things that, you know, one person might just be slightly off, right? So you're trying to marry all of those factors together to get the right take and the right shot, which is why I think filmmaking is just a bit of magic. Like, so much has to come together in a single present moment to really get the shot and to really get the thing that's usable. So it takes a lot of intention and, as I said, a lot of prep to get there.
And speak of intention, as I came out of the film, I just really felt like the best way I could describe this feeling is it made me feel how watching Moonlight made me feel.
That is like the best compliment. My references for this film were actually After Sun and Moonlight. And I think what I love about those films is that they deal with maybe heavier subject matter, and the tone is heavy, nuanced, but in a way you leave feeling with a sense of hope at the same time. And I think that's the interesting thing to play into in cinematic storytelling with our emotions, is that we can experience dark situations, we can go through tough times, we can experience something heavy, but there's always light in that too. And there's always a sense of hope as well. That's the spectrum of emotions that we can all experience. And so I think when we do get taken into a bit of that darker tone of storytelling, we are awakened to that other part of ourselves too, that heart, that light.
And related to that, in terms of the light of the storytelling, I really feel that all stories, whether fiction or nonfiction, it comes from a place of truth. And for you, especially as a dancer, when it comes to the darker topics addressed in this film, was there people or any stories that you kept in the back of your mind that you were bringing light and truth to?
Totally. I mean, we all know the Me Too movement, in the past, like, I guess now it's been more than 5 years, but in the dance community, that was a big thing as well. It's like people finally coming forward. And, when I grew up in the dance community, we didn't have that voice yet. It was more than a decade ago. And it was almost just something that you had to be used to. You're like, oh yeah, these like creepy artists just hit on you all the time, or you're on a hip hop video, and as one of the girls, you're just going to get like hit on all the time, and you can't really do anything about it. And now, of course, that's totally unacceptable. But back then, we just didn't have a voice for it, right? Not only as dancers, we're so used to being in a nonverbal craft, but you're also often the bottom of the totem pole. And then on top of that, I actually work with a lot of women and do a lot of trauma work through mindfulness. That's my other business that I do besides filmmaking. So of course, I've heard tons of stories of trauma around assault, around sexual abuse or whatever it is. And I think it's just not being afraid to talk about it. I think people can get very touchy and sensitive, but you're like, it's just a truth about life. And to me, this film was not about focusing on the trauma, but focusing on the healing and the community, when two young girls who go through something similar together can find a sense of safety in each other. And so to me, I'm like, that's what storytelling is all about. It's about shining light on important topics and hopefully sharing a message that someone could hear or someone might need to hear.
I mean, I just love it. That intention is really captured by the final shot of the film, where we find them in the forest, representative of their fullest dreams fully realized.
Yeah.
And describe the thought behind such a fantasy-like film or moment in the film.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that moment is a result of all these other moments that have happened before, where, first there's this element of touch, right? It's like one of the first scenes, we see how uncomfortable Mason is with touch. So seeing her at the end finally hugging and in such a long hug, right? And her feeling so safe, that to me was the whole symbolism of that hope, right? But also this idea that they were mirror images of each other, right? Like through all the improv, they're doing this kind of like mirror dance and mimicking one another, but they're never touching, right? They always just like get very close to each other. And so that final moment, I think for me, was the symbol of these two souls, these two girls really finding that safety, that bond, and that community together by actually touching and holding each other. And that realization of Mason's dream, just finally being in a safe place. That's what she was saying to Ellie earlier on, when Ellie asks her, what's her dream? To me, what she was actually saying in the subtext is like, I just want to feel safe, And so when we see them hugging and she's in her safe space, we know she's realized that.
That is beautiful. And to close us off, can you plug in what's up next for Mel Mah in her filmmaking journey?
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be developing my first feature film. It's a road trip dramedy called This Way to Home. It's a father-daughter road trip. They go from Toronto to Los Angeles, so my two homes. And we right now have Ken Jeong attached to play my father, one of the lead characters. So me and my producing partner, Frankie Rubio, have been really pushing that forward, and we're hoping to shoot that in Canada in the next year.
Congratulations. Looking forward to it.
Thank
you, Mel.
Thanks so much, Neil.